To today's lecture on multi-digit operations. In the video description, you could download a free worksheet for your own discretion where you can access the problems that we'll go over today for this lecture, as well as additional homework problems and challenge problems. So the four main operations that we're looking at here today are addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Now you probably are familiar with these operations, but you've probably only done single digit operation problems, like let's just say like 7 times 3. Today we'll be dealing with more than a digit, and we'll be covering problems that make you have to divide, multiply, subtract, and add 2, 3, 4 digits by another 4, 3, and 2 digit. So let's get on to today's lecture. So in this video, we'll go over 12 problems, 3 of each operation, and we'll go over the process of how to solve these problems. So we're going to begin with addition, probably the easiest part. So with problem number 1, we have 48 plus 37. Now, the way you format this is that you take this leading number, you write it down, and then you write down the second number right below. And then you put the operation symbol to the left, and then draw a line. So what we're going to do is that we're going to go from right to left and from top to bottom. So in each column, right, so looking at the setup, we're going to focus on the rightmost column, which is 8 plus 7. So I'm going to ignore everything else, ignore the 4 and the 3, and just focus on 8 and 7. And we're adding from top to bottom. So 8 plus 7 is going to equal to 15. So we're going to write down 15, right? And then we're going to move on to the next column. And then it's 4 plus 3 is 7. So 715 is the answer, right? Well, actually, that is not the answer. What you need to realize is that typically with this with this format, you actually cannot write down the 10th digit until you get to the final column. So when it comes to this column of 8 plus 7, you had to write down the ones digit only. And so the ones digit is 5, because 8 plus 7 is 15, and then you have the 1, which is the 10th digit, which you cannot put on the bottom, but you can write down that 5. What we're going to do with that 1 actually is move it to the next column. So we're going to put this 1 right above the 4, and then you just simply do 1 plus 4 plus 3, which will equal to 85. So this is your answer. Let's move on to number 2. 373 plus 231. Remember, focus on the right column first, and then keep moving to the left. 3 plus 1 is 4. 7 plus 3 is 10. Hold up, we could only write down the 0 because we could only write down the ones digit. This means we borrow that, we don't borrow. We bring that 1 to the next column, and we put it right above the 3, and then just add up 1 plus 3 plus 2, which is 6. So 604 is the answer. Let's try to use a different color for today. Okay. Number 3, the final addition problem for today, is 1,867 plus 1,210. Once again, we move from right to left. 7 plus 0 is 7. 6 plus 1 is 7. 8 plus 2 is 10, but just put down the 0 and bring that 1 to the next column. Finally, we do 1 plus 1 plus 1, which is 3. Okay, now moving on to subtraction. So the first subtraction problem is 90 minus 53, and we format this the same way. Okay, so we go from right to left again, and top to bottom. So 0 minus 3 will actually produce a negative number, but today we're not dealing with negative numbers. So what you need to realize is that in this specific column, if the top number is smaller than the bottom number, you need to look at the number right next to the top number, to the left actually, and then just borrow that 1 from the from that number. So I see to the left of 0, which is the top number, is 9. This means that we just subtract 1 from 9, and this will be 8. Now we have to add this. Now, thinking that you may add just the 1, this is technically a 10. So you're adding 10 to this 0. You're not subtracting 10 from the 0. Okay? So after you could just write down the 10, just to make it more intuitive, but you add 10 to the 0, and then that will be just 10 minus 3 is 7. So you're done with the right column. Now, focusing on the last column, the left one, 8 minus 5 is 3. So that is it. And see, we don't have to do anything because for the left column, because 8 is bigger than the 5. Now let's focus on 187 minus 102. Once again, go from right to left. 7 minus 2 is 5. 8 minus 0 is 8. And 1 minus 1 is 0. So 85 is your answer. Simple enough for that one. Okay, final subtraction problem for today is 1,219 minus 789. Okay, go from right to left once again. 9 minus 9 is 0. And, okay, so here's the issue with the next column. 1 minus 8 will not work because 1 is too small of a number. Therefore, I need to look at the number to the left of the 1, which is just the 2. So we need to take 1 away from the 2. So this becomes 1, and then we add a 10 right above the 1. So 10 plus 1, right? We're not subtracting, we're adding here. So we're adding 10 to the 1, and then we'll subtract that answer by 8. So 10 plus 1 is 11. Now you subtract that by 8, which is 3. And we'll just erase this for now. Okay. So now we're looking at the next column, 1 minus 7, right? This used to be a 2, but now this is a 1. So what we need to realize is that 1 is too small of a number to subtract by 7. Therefore, we need to look at the number to the left of the 1, which is 1, right? So we can just take that away, and we just add 10 right above. So this means we have to add 10 to the 1, and that's just going to be 11, and then subtract that by 7, which will equal 430. Okay. Now we're moving on to multiplication for today. 85 times 12. We format it the same way. But here's the trick with this. We actually, the process is that we still go from the right to the left, but what we need to do is that, let's color code it. Here, right. So I'm going to look at this bottom row, right, the 12, and I'm going to start with this number, the 2, and I'm going to first multiply the 2 by the 5, right, we're still going from right to left, and then I'm going to multiply 2 times 8, okay, so that's what we're going to do. So 5 times 2 is 10, but remember, we cannot write down the 10th digit, even if it's multiplication. So this means that we need to just write down the 1st digit, which is 0, and then carry that 1 to the next one. So 8 times 2 is 16, and remember, we're going to take that 1 from earlier, because we got 10 from multiplying 2 by 5. So this means that we add 1 to the 16. So 1 plus 16 will equal 17. Now realize that we're done with the 2. This means that we just write down the 17. That's perfectly fine. Okay, now focusing on the 1. I'm going to start by multiplying 1 by 5, and then after that I'll multiply 1 by 8. So 1 times 5, and realize actually okay, so 1 times 5 is 5, okay? But realize that we don't actually write the 5 here, because this 2 starts in this column, right? And this 1 starts in this column, right? So we just had to put the 5 right below the 7 actually, and then we do 8 times 1, is 8. Now you realize what is there to do right now? So basically we can just add all the numbers together. Um, so 0, and there's nothing to add with here. So this means that we just write down the 0. Then it's time to add 7 plus 5 when we move to the next column. So 7 plus 5 is 12, but we could only write down the 2. We had to carry that 10th digit, which is the 1. Let's write down the arrow. It's 1. And so 1 plus 1 plus 8 is 10. And that's the last column, so we can just write down the entire number. So 1020 is the answer. Okay, perfect. Eighth problem for today is 376 times 12. Same process again. We first deal with the 2. Right, we're looking at the bottom row, and then we're going to multiply that 2 by all the numbers on the top row, starting from 6, which is the rightmost number, and then going to the left. 3 is the leftmost number. Okay? So 6 times 2 is 12, but we can only write down the 2 because we cannot write down the 10th digit. So carry that 1 to the 7 times 2, which is 14, and then add that 1 to the 14, which is 15, but we can only write down the 5. This means we carry that 1 to the next operation. 3 times 2 is equal to 6, plus 1 is 7. And then we just write down 7. Right, now we're going to focus on that 1 and multiply that 1 by all the numbers on the top. And it's still from 6 to 7 to 3. But this time we start writing our numbers in this column because this one is aligned with this column right here, right? So 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 7 is 7, and 1 times 3 is 3. Finally, you add all these numbers together. 2, we have nothing to add with here, right? There's no number here, so this means we just put the 2 down. Then we're going to do 5 plus 6, which is 11, but just write down that 1 and then bring the 1 right here. 1 plus 7 is 15, but we can just write down the 5 and carry that 1 to this next column. 1 plus 3 is 4. So therefore, 4,512 is the answer. Okay, perfect. Now we're going to deal with the final multiplication problem to today. 1028 times 54. We're going to do the same approach again. So 8 times 4 is 32. We just write down the 2. And we carry that 3 to the next operation, which is 2 times 4, which is 8, plus 3 is 11. But just write down that 1 and bring that 1 to the next operation of 0 times 4, which is 0, plus 1 is 1. So this means that we just have to do 4 times 1, which is 4. Perfect. Now we have to worry about the 5. And we have to go from right to left again. So 5 times 8 is equal to 40, but we just write down that 0 and bring that 4. Okay, 5 times 2 is 10, plus 4 is 14. Then we carry that 1 to the next one, which is 0 times 5 is 0, plus 1 is 1. And then finally, 1 times 5 is 5. Now we just add the numbers together. So this is 2. Oops. This is 2. This is 1. This is 5. This is 5. And this is 5. There we go. Okay, we're reaching towards the end of this lecture, but first let's finish with division. Okay, so when it comes to division of multiple digits, we're going to work with something called long division. Now, you may have learned this in the past, but if you haven't, well, we'll teach it here. So what you need to do is, there's a different format for this. So basically, you write down this figure right? And then you see this leading number here for number 10. We're going to work with number 10 on the left screen. We're going to put this leading number 150 here, and then we're going to put the divisor, which is the sits, right here. And basically, what we're going to do is that we're going to compare the sits to the numbers from the 150, and we're going to see how many times the sits can fit into the numbers. Okay? So, and we're still going from, this time we're going from left to right when looking at these numbers. Okay, so for example, this will be a little bit difficult, but can sits go into 1? Well, no, sits cannot go into 1. Okay, therefore, I need to combine this 1 with the 15. I mean, with the 5. So this becomes 15. Now, how many times can sits go into 15? Sits can go into 15 2 times. And why? Because we could just divide 15 by sits. And I think this is just pretty simple. This is 2, remainder 3. Now, if you don't know what a remainder is, it's just it's like the extra stuff that comes after like dividing this entirely, right? Because sits can only go to 15 2 times, and then what you have left is 3. Think of it as like leftovers, right? So actually, yeah, therefore, since sits can go into 15 2 times, we're going to write the 2 right above the 5. And then we're going to multiply the sits by the 2, which is 12. And then we're actually going to subtract 15 by 12. Just ignore the 0. That's fine. So 5 minus 2 is 3. And then 1 minus 1 is 0. And as you can see, the number that we actually produce after subtracting 15 by 12 is just a remainder. So just think of it that way. Now we need to do something called bringing down the number next. Okay, so we can just bring down to 0, right? And then what we need to figure out is how many times sit can go into 30. Well, I think doing this in your head, sits can go into 35 times. And actually this fits perfectly because we're gonna actually have no remainder. You know why? Because if we multiply sits by the 5, you're going to get 30, and then subtract all this. 30 minus 30 is just 0 itself. So therefore, there's no remainder, right? And 25 is your final answer because you have no more numbers to bring down from the 150. So with long division, you're going to have to bring down numbers after subtracting them many times. And you'll see more examples of this. Okay, second and last problem for today is 345 divided by 15. Okay, once again, we need to see how many times 15 can fit into these numbers. And so can 15 fit into 3? Right, we're going from left to right with this 345. Okay? 15, can it fit into 3? I don't think so. 15 is too big of a number. We need to combine the 3 with the 4 that's like to the right of the 3. Therefore, now we're looking at 34, and we want to see how many times 15 can fit into 34. Well, I think by doing this in your head, I think you can do it in your head. 15 goes into 34 twice with a remainder of 4 because 15 times 2 is 30. And then if you think about it, if you try to fit 15 into if you try to multiply 15 by 3, you're going to get 45, which supersedes 34, and that's not going to work, right? So you're going to have a remainder, right? Therefore, right, we can finally multiply this 15 by 2, which is 30, and then we're going to have to do 34 minus 30. Just ignore the 5. So 34 minus 30. So 4 minus 0 is 4, and then 3 minus 3 is 0. So we have the 4, and now we need to bring down 5, which is the final number we need to bring down, and the only number. We want to see how many times 15 can fit into 45 and as we proved earlier, actually, 15 fits into 45 3 times, because 15 times 3. This is just actually 45, right? So that means 15 fits into 45 3 times. So we're gonna actually have no remainder in the end. So that is your answer. Okay, final problem for today will be 4,375 divided by 25, and what we need to do is compare the 25 to the 4 first. That's not going to work. Now we need to bring that 3 to the 4, and now we're gonna have 43. And see, 25 fits into 43 once, because if you try to multiply 25 by 2, you're gonna get 50, which is over 43. So that's not going to work. You're going to have a remainder for now. So we're going to subtract 43 by 25. What's the remainder? Well, we can just figure it out through subtraction. I know there's no space, but 43 minus 25, let's just write it down here. And so 3 minus 5, well, that's not going to work. This means we need to borrow a 1 from the 4, and then we just write the 10 above the 3. So 10 plus 3 is 13 minus 5, which is 8. And then 3 minus 2 is 1. So we have 18. This is the remainder that we produce by subtracting 43 from 25. Now we need to borrow that. Now we need to bring down the 7 right below. Right, put that right there. I want to see how many times 187 can fit into 25. Well, I think you could do this through your head, that 25 fits into 187 7 times. And to find the remainder, we're going to put down that 7, and we're going to multiply 25 by 7, or this way. So 5 times 7 is 35, and then carry that 3, right? And then 2 times 7 is 14, plus plus 3 is 17. So we have 175, and we're going to subtract that from 187. Okay, so 187 minus 175. Well, we need to look at 7 minus 5, which is 2, and then 8 minus 7 is 1, and then 1 minus 1 is 0. So we have 12. Okay, we have one final number to bring down. So we put this 5 right here, right? This is the last number from 4,375. And we need to see how many times 125 can fit into 125. So I think actually that if we just think about it, I think 25 fits into 125 5 times. Because look at it. 5 times 5 is 25, but we just write down that 5. And then 2 times 5 is 10, plus 2 is 12. So therefore, I think we just put the 5 right here, and voila, this is 0. So 175 is your answer. Thank you for tuning in to today's lecture. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have any advice, please leave it down in the comments. And once again, there's a worksheet available in the description of this video. It is for your own discretion. You get access to additional problems. But anyways, have a good day.